Lily Wilson stood nervously outside the towering black gates of Blackwood Mansion, clutching a worn backpack against her chest. She stared at the estate for several seconds, wondering how anyone could possibly live in a place that looked more like a luxury hotel than a home. Her mother had worked there for nearly 8 years, yet Lily had only seen the mansion from the outside whenever she came to pick her up after work. Today was different. Today she wasn't visiting. She was replacing her injured mother. Taking a deep breath, she pressed the intercom. A few seconds later, the gates slowly opened. "Come in," a calm male voice said before the connection ended. Lily swallowed hard and walked up the long stone pathway. Beautiful gardens lined both sides, trimmed so perfectly that not a single leaf seemed out of place. A sparkling fountain stood proudly in the center of the courtyard, surrounded by expensive sports cars that probably cost more than everything she and her mother owned combined. She suddenly became painfully aware of the cheap sneakers on her feet. Before she could knock, the front door opened. A tall man dressed in a charcoal suit stood in the entrance. He looked exactly like the pictures she had secretly seen in business magazines while waiting tables at the restaurant. Ethan Blackwood, the billionaire founder of Blackwood Technologies. His sharp grey eyes examined her from head to toe without saying a word. "You must be Lily." "Yes, sir." "Where's your mother?" "She wanted to come herself." Lily forced a smile, but the doctor threatened to report her if she kept walking on a fractured ankle. Ethan's expression remained unreadable. "So she sent you?" "I actually forced her to let me come." She held out an envelope. "This is a letter from my mom." Ethan opened it immediately. His eyes scanned the handwritten page. Mrs. Wilson apologized repeatedly for being unable to work, explained her injury, and begged him not to terminate her employment. She promised to return as soon as she recovered. When he finished reading, he folded the letter neatly and slipped it into his pocket. "You realize this isn't a temporary favor?" "Yes. You'll be expected to perform every task your mother normally does." "I know. This house has very high standards. I understand. And if you break something expensive," Lily let out a nervous laugh, "I'll probably faint before you even have the chance to fire me." To her surprise, the corner of Ethan's lips twitched, only slightly. "Come inside." The mansion was even larger than she imagined. The entrance alone was bigger than her entire apartment. Crystal chandeliers reflected against polished marble floors. Massive paintings decorated the walls. Every piece of furniture looked untouched. It was beautiful, yet strangely cold. There wasn't a single family photograph, no colorful decorations, no books left open, nothing that suggested someone actually lived there. It felt like walking through a museum. "You'll clean every Monday, Wednesday and Friday." Ethan handed her a small digital tablet. "My assistant has already listed your duties." Lily looked at the schedule. Every room had its own checklist. Every task had an exact time. Even polishing the dining table had a 20-minute limit. She blinked twice. "You timed dusting." "I value efficiency." She smiled awkwardly. "My mom never mentioned that part." "Your mother finished on time." "I think now I know why." Ethan turned toward the staircase. "My office is on the second floor. Unless the house is on fire, don't interrupt me." "What if it's a small fire?" He looked back. "What?" "I'm kidding." Silence. "Oh." She rubbed the back of her neck. "That joke sounded much better in my head." Without another word, Ethan disappeared upstairs. Lily stood alone in the enormous living room. "Well," she whispered to herself, "this should be easy." Exactly 10 minutes later, a loud crash echoed through the mansion. Upstairs, Ethan closed his eyes. He had a feeling his peaceful routine had just come to an end. Lily stared at the broken ceramic flower pots lying across the kitchen floor. So much for easy. She quickly grabbed a broom before anyone noticed. Unfortunately, someone already had. "I usually hear that sound when something expensive dies." Lily slowly turned around. Ethan stood at the kitchen entrance with his arms folded. She smiled weakly. "In my defense, the shelf attacked me first." "The shelf attacked you?" "Very aggressively." His eyes moved to the shattered flower pot. "That pot belonged to my grandmother." Lily's smile disappeared instantly. "Oh no." She knelt immediately, trying to gather every broken piece. "I'm so sorry. I wasn't paying attention." As she reached for a sharp piece of ceramic, it sliced across her finger. She flinched. A small drop of blood landed on the white marble floor. Before she could hide her hand, Ethan walked over. "Let me see. It's just a scratch." Lily. Reluctantly, she held out her hand. The cut wasn't deep, but blood continued to trickle down her finger. Without saying anything, Ethan walked to one of the kitchen drawers, removed a first aid kit, and carefully cleaned the wound. Lily watched him in surprise. "I thought billionaires hired people for things like this." "I did." He wrapped a bandage around her finger. "Unfortunately, she's recovering from a fractured ankle." Despite herself, she laughed. "So you do make jokes?" "I don't. You literally just did. I stated a fact." "Sure." She smiled. "I'll pretend I believe you." For a brief second, Ethan looked directly into her bright hazel eyes. There was something unusual about her. Most people acted nervous around him because of his money. She acted nervous because she didn't want to disappoint him. There was a difference. "Take a 15-minute break," he said. "I'll clean this." Her eyes widened. "I broke it. I noticed. So let me clean it." "You've already cut yourself." "I've survived worse." He looked at her bandaged finger. "You shouldn't have to." The words surprised both of them. Lily stared at him. No wealthy employer had ever spoken to her like that. Not with concern. Not even a little. She smiled softly. "My mom was wrong." "What do you mean?" "She said you never smile, and that you're terrifying." "I am." She tilted her head. "I don't think that's so." Before Ethan could answer, his phone rang. The name flashing across the screen immediately erased every trace of warmth from his face. "Diana Chambers." He answered. "Yes." A sharp female voice echoed through the speaker. "The investors have moved tomorrow's meeting forward. They're arriving in 3 hours instead of tomorrow morning." Ethan's expression changed completely. "What? You heard me. If you don't impress them today, they'll take their billion-dollar investment somewhere else." The call ended. Ethan looked toward the staircase. His presentation wasn't finished. Half the financial projections were still incomplete. He turned and walked away without another word. Lily quietly watched him disappear into his office. For the first time since arriving, the confident billionaire didn't look confident at all. He looked worried. She glanced toward the staircase, then at the abandoned first aid kit still sitting on the kitchen counter. A thought crossed her mind, one that would change everything. Lily stood quietly in the kitchen, staring toward the second floor. She knew she should ignore it. Her mother had warned her countless times. "Do your work, keep your head down, and never get involved in your employer's personal affairs." That advice had kept Mrs. Wilson employed for nearly 8 years. Unfortunately, Lily had inherited none of her mother's ability to mind her own business. She picked up the first aid box Ethan had left behind and returned it neatly to the drawer. As she closed it, she noticed several unopened boxes of instant noodles stacked inside one of the cabinets. She frowned. Then she opened the refrigerator. Her eyes grew wider. There were bottled water, yogurt, energy drinks, takeout containers, and absolutely nothing that looked like an actual meal. "No wonder he looks tired all the time," she murmured. She quickly shut the refrigerator before she could be caught snooping again. Meanwhile, upstairs, Ethan sat in front of 3 computer screens, rubbing his temples. The presentation refused to come together. Charts were incomplete. Financial reports were scattered across his desk. His assistant kept sending emails marked urgent. His phone buzzed every few seconds. For the first time in months, Ethan felt overwhelmed. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. "I said not to disturb me." The door opened anyway. Lily peeked inside. "I'm aware you said that." Ethan looked up. "What is it?" "I made coffee." "I didn't ask for coffee." "I know." She walked in carefully and placed the mug beside him. "But judging from your face, you needed it." He looked at the cup. The aroma filled the room. "It smelled surprisingly good. I also brought you something else." She placed a small white plate beside the coffee. It held to homemade muffins. "My mom baked them yesterday before she got injured." Ethan stared at them. "I can't accept your food." "Why?" "Because it's yours. My mom made 24. Lily smiled. "Trust me. She'd be offended if you don't eat at least 2. Despite himself, Ethan picked one up. He took a small bite. The soft vanilla flavor melted instantly. It tasted nothing like the expensive desserts served at business dinners. It tasted homemade. "This is good." Lily folded her arms proudly. I know. You baked them. My mother did. You just took the credit. I inherited the confidence. For the second time that day, Ethan almost smiled. His attention returned to the screen. Lily accidentally caught sight of one of the charts. She stopped walking. You switched those numbers. Ethan looked up immediately. What? She pointed carefully. The comparison graph. You compared fourth quarter profits with first quarter expenses. He frowned. That's impossible. She stepped closer. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. She leaned toward the screen. But these labels don't match the spreadsheet underneath. Ethan looked again. His eyes narrowed. She was right. He had copied the wrong data table. Had he presented that to the investors, the entire meeting would have collapsed. He slowly looked back at her. How did you notice that? Lily shrugged. My mom says I have annoying eyes. What does that mean? I notice tiny details. She laughed softly. It drives everyone crazy. Ethan corrected the chart. The numbers immediately made sense. He looked at her with genuine curiosity. You're studying architecture, aren't you? Yes. Not finance. No. Then why do you understand graphs? My professor says every design tells a story. She smiled. So do numbers. For a long moment, Ethan said nothing. Then he closed the laptop. I owe you one. You don't owe me anything. I do. She shook her head. You let my mom keep her job. She smiled warmly. We're even. She turned to leave. Just before reaching the door, she noticed the grey walls surrounding the office. They're depressing. Ethan sighed. Not this again. I'm serious. She looked around. Your office is where ideas are born. So, it shouldn't feel like a prison. It helps me concentrate. It makes me sleepy. This isn't your office. I know. She grinned. But if it were, I'd paint one wall forest green. And why would anyone do that? Because green improves focus. You made that up. I didn't. She laughed. You can search it later. She finally walked out before he could argue again. Ethan looked around his office. Grey walls, grey furniture, grey carpet, grey curtains. He had never noticed. Now it was impossible not to. Downstairs, Lily continued dusting the living room when she heard the front doorbell. She opened it without thinking. Standing outside was an elegant woman wearing designer sunglasses, a cream-colored suit, and diamond earrings that sparkled even beneath the cloudy afternoon sky. The woman's eyes immediately landed on Lily's cleaning uniform. And who are you? Lily. I'm replacing my mother while she's recovering. The woman removed her sunglasses slowly. I asked for your name, not your life story. Lily forced a polite smile. My name is Lily Wilson. The woman stepped inside without waiting to be invited. I'm Diana Chambers. She glanced around before speaking again. I've known Ethan 4 years. Something about the way she said his name made Lily uncomfortable. Diana slowly walked through the living room, inspecting every corner. Then she stopped. She noticed the plate with crumbs from the muffins sitting on the coffee table. Interesting. Her eyes shifted toward Lily. You made him food. My mother did. Diana smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind that judged before speaking. Careful. I'm sorry. Many girls mistake kindness for opportunity. Lily frowned. I don't understand. I'm sure you don't. Diana adjusted her handbag. But you will. At that exact moment, Ethan came downstairs. His eyes immediately moved between the two women. Diana, you seem busy. She smiled sweetly. I hope I'm not interrupting anything. Lily suddenly had the strange feeling that her peaceful first day had just become far more complicated. Ethan walked toward the living room, his expression calm, though the tension in the room was impossible to ignore. Diana, I thought we were meeting at the office. We were. Diana replied smoothly. But I figured I'd save us both the drive. Besides, I wanted to see the house. It's been months. She turned toward Lily again. I didn't know you had hired someone new. My housekeeper is recovering from an injury. Ethan answered before Lily could speak. Lily is filling in temporarily. Temporarily, Diana repeated with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. That's good to know. Lily excused herself and headed toward the laundry room. But she couldn't help hearing fragments of their conversation as she passed the hallway. The investors are already at the hotel. I know. They're expecting a flawless presentation. It will be. I certainly hope so. Lily quietly closed the laundry room door behind her. She wasn't interested in their business conversation. At least, that's what she told herself. The afternoon passed quickly. She vacuumed the upstairs bedrooms, polished the glass staircase, and finished organizing the guest suites. By the time she reached Ethan's study again, the mansion had become completely silent. She knocked gently. No answer. She pushed the door open, just enough to peek inside. Ethan had fallen asleep at his desk. His laptop was still open. Several files were spread across the table. His reading glasses rested crookedly on his face. Lily smiled to herself. So billionaires do get tired. She stepped inside as quietly as possible. The air conditioner was blowing directly toward him. Without making a sound, she picked up the folded blanket, lying on the nearby sofa, and carefully placed it over his shoulders. As she turned to leave, her eyes landed on a framed photograph sitting face down behind a stack of files. Curious, she gently picked it up. It showed a younger Ethan standing beside an elegant woman with warm eyes and a gentle smile. His mother. There was another picture beneath it. A family photo. His father had been cut out, not torn, carefully cut out with scissors. Lily stared for a moment before placing both photographs exactly where she had found them. Now she understood. The silence in this house wasn't accidental. It had been built from loneliness. She quietly closed the office door behind her. An hour later, Ethan woke with a start. The blanket slipped from his shoulders. He frowned. He certainly hadn't covered himself. His eyes scanned the room. Everything remained exactly where he had left it, except a fresh cup of coffee sat beside his laptop, still warm. Beside it was a small handwritten note. Working yourself into exhaustion isn't a business strategy. Please drink this before it gets cold. Lily. For reasons he couldn't explain, Ethan folded the tiny note instead of throwing it away. He slipped it into his wallet. It stayed there. That evening, Ethan delivered the presentation of his career. The investors listened carefully. Questions came one after another. He answered every single one with confidence. By the end of the meeting, the chairman stood and extended his hand. Congratulations, Mr. Blackwood. We look forward to working together. The contract was worth nearly $2 billion. His executives erupted into applause. His assistant could barely contain her excitement. You did it. Ethan smiled politely, but strangely, his mind wasn't on the contract. It wandered back to a handwritten note folded inside his wallet. The next morning, Lily arrived carrying a small paper bag. She had barely stepped inside when Ethan appeared in the hallway. You're early, she said. So are you. She lifted the paper bag. My mom baked cinnamon rolls. I thought yesterday's muffins were the last. My mother cooks whenever she's worried. Worried about what? You. Ethan looked genuinely surprised. Me. She kept asking whether you were eating properly. Lily laughed. I reminded her you're a billionaire. And, she said, money doesn't stop people from skipping breakfast. Ethan couldn't argue with that. She wasn't wrong. Lily walked toward the kitchen. A few minutes later, the warm smell of cinnamon filled the mansion. Even Ethan, who usually skipped breakfast entirely, found himself walking toward the dining room. Lily had already arranged her plates. You set one for me. I guessed. You guessed correctly. He sat down across from her. For the first few minutes, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't awkward. It was peaceful. So, Lily finally said, did the investors like your presentation? They signed the contract. Her face lit up instantly. I knew they would. You sound very confident. I was. How? She pointed toward him with her fork. Yesterday, before I left your office, you looked terrified. I was. But this morning you walked downstairs looking relaxed. She smiled. People only look like that when things go their way. Ethan chuckled softly. You notice everything. I told you. My annoying eyes. Before either of them could continue, the front door opened. A young man in an expensive navy suit walked inside without knocking. Ethan. He stopped the moment he saw Lily sitting across from him. His eyebrows slowly lifted. Well, a grin spread across his face. This is new. Ethan sighed. Good morning to you too, Noah. Noah Blackwood, Ethan's younger cousin, and the company's marketing director, looked between the two of them before smiling mischievously. I leave you alone for 1 week, and suddenly you're having breakfast with a beautiful woman. Lily nearly choked on her cinnamon roll. Noah couldn't stop smiling. He pulled out a chair and sat down without waiting for an invitation. This is the first time I've seen another human being sitting at this dining table before noon. Ethan sighed. You don't have an office to be in. I do. Then why aren't you there? I came to congratulate you on landing the Hartwell investment. Noah reached for a cinnamon roll. And apparently, breakfast. Lily quickly moved the plate away. Those aren't for stealing. Noah placed a hand dramatically over his chest. You wound me. I don't even know you. Exactly. Give me a chance. Lily laughed. Ethan watched the exchange in silence. It had been years since laughter echoed around this table. Years. Noah finally introduced himself properly. My name is Noah Blackwood. Unfortunately, I'm related to this serious-looking man. I'm Lily, the temporary housekeeper. So I've heard. He smiled warmly. Don't let Ethan fool you. He looks intimidating. But deep down he's only slightly less intimidating. Ethan shook his head. I invited neither of you to insult me. You don't have to. Noah grinned. You make it too easy. After breakfast, Noah followed Ethan into the study. The moment the door closed, his playful expression disappeared. I've never seen you like this. Like what? You smiled 3 times this morning. So, you usually smile 3 times a month. Ethan ignored the comments and continued reviewing documents. Noah leaned against the desk. You like her? Ethan didn't even look up. She's my employee. That's not what I asked. Silence filled the office. Finally, Ethan spoke. She's different. How? I don't know. He looked toward the window. When she's here, the house feels alive. Noah folded his arms. That's the most emotional sentence you've spoken in 10 years. Ethan gave him a warning look. Don't start. I'm serious. Noah walked closer. You've spent years surrounding yourself with people who only care about your money, your company, or your influence. He nodded toward the hallway. That girl looked happier serving cinnamon rolls than most people look, receiving million-dollar bonuses. Ethan couldn't deny it. Lily never looked impressed by the mansion. She never asked about his cars. She never tried to flatter him. She simply treated him like a normal person. And somehow, that was becoming dangerous. Downstairs, Lily had finished cleaning the library. Unlike every other room in the mansion, this one fascinated her. Hundreds of books filled the towering shelves. Business, economics, leadership, finance, biography. Everything was perfectly organized. She slowly walked along the shelves until she noticed a thin, dusty novel squeezed between 2 business books. She carefully pulled it out. Pride and Prejudice. She smiled. So there is one. You found it. Lily jumped. She turned to see Ethan standing in the doorway. I thought this room was off limits. It isn't. She held up the novel. I was just surprised. Why? I expected more books like this. She looked around. Stories. I don't have time for fiction. I think you need it. Ethan raised an eyebrow. And why is that? Because stories remind people that not everything in life has to make a profit. For a moment, Ethan simply looked at her. You really say whatever comes into your mind. I do. My mother says it's a gift. And what do you think? Lily smiled. I think it's gotten me into trouble more times than I can count. Ethan laughed. A real laugh. Not forced, not polite. It echoed through the library. Lily stared at him in surprise. There it is. What? Your real smile. He immediately cleared his throat. I don't know what you're talking about. You should smile more. I have board meetings. So, they're not funny. Neither are you. She giggled. But somehow you're smiling anyway. For the rest of the afternoon, Ethan found himself smiling at random moments. His employees noticed during video meetings. His assistant noticed when he thanked her instead of simply nodding. Even Noah sent him a message that read, "Who are you? And what have you done with my cousin?" Ethan ignored it, but deep inside, he knew something was changing. Not in his company, not in his career, in him. The following Friday, Lily arrived carrying several small flower pots, balanced carefully in her arms. Ethan opened the door and stared at them. What is all this? She smiled proudly. Your house is about to become happier. My house doesn't have emotions. You keep saying that. She walked inside. But I disagree. Before Ethan could stop her, she placed the first plant on a table near the entrance, then another beside the staircase, a third near the living room window. Lily. She looked back innocently. Yes, I don't remember approving this. I know. She adjusted one of the pots. But every home deserves something alive. This house is alive. It has electricity. Exactly. She laughed. No. She looked around the enormous mansion. This place is beautiful. She gently touched one of the leaves. But beauty isn't the same as warmth. Ethan didn't answer, because for the first time, he was beginning to believe she was right. Just then, the front doorbell rang. Lily opened it without thinking. Standing outside was Mrs. Evelyn Hartwell, the wealthy widow whose investment group had just partnered with Blackwood Technologies. Beside her stood her elegant granddaughter, Victoria, tall, beautiful, perfectly dressed. Victoria smiled as soon as she saw Ethan. So this is where you've been hiding. Her eyes shifted toward Lily. The smile on her face slowly disappeared. And who is she? Lily suddenly felt the air around her grow heavy. She had no idea that the woman standing before her was about to become the biggest obstacle between her and Ethan. Victoria's eyes remained fixed on Lily. She wasn't simply curious. She was measuring her, judging her, waiting for someone to explain why a young woman in a housekeeper's uniform had answered Ethan Blackwood's front door. Ethan walked over calmly. Lily's temporarily replacing Mrs. Wilson while she recovers. Victoria gave Lily another slow glance before smiling politely. I see. The smile looked perfect. Her eyes didn't. Mrs. Hartwell stepped forward with a warm laugh. So this is the famous mansion everyone keeps talking about. Ethan nodded. Please come in. As they entered the living room, Victoria immediately noticed the flower pots Lily had arranged around the house. Interesting choice. She lightly touched one of the leaves. I don't remember your house looking colorful. It didn't, Ethan replied. Lily brought them. Victoria looked surprised. You let your housekeeper redecorate your home? Lily immediately shook her head. I'm sorry if I overstepped. I brought the plants because I thought the house needed a little warmth. If Mr. Blackwood doesn't like them, I'll take them home. Before she could pick up the nearest flower pot, Ethan stopped her. They stay. Lily looked at him. So do the flowers. A brief silence followed. Victoria forced another smile, but inside, jealousy quietly began to grow. They just see the maid. Ethan looked at her for several seconds. Then he spoke quietly. I see Lily. For a moment, neither of them moved. Neither of them spoke. Something neither of them could explain had begun growing between them. It wasn't love, not yet. But it was no longer simple kindness. It was something deeper, something neither of them was ready to admit. Neither of them noticed Noah standing upstairs, watching everything with a knowing smile. He folded his arms and quietly whispered to himself, Oh, cousin, you're in much deeper than you realize. And for the first time, Ethan Blackwood was beginning to wonder if the temporary maid who had walked into his perfectly organized life was about to become the one person he would never want to lose. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to MHI Stories, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next chapter. Also, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? We'd love to see how many countries are enjoying this story together.